Yeah, I think, yes, the clerk would read.
E is a public hearing for the purpose of obtaining public input on the 2015 City of Topeka Consolidated Action Plan.
Thank you. And with this, for a public hearing, it is appropriate that we have, by law, an overview of the proposal, and for that, I believe, is Brad Reef.
Good evening, Council, Mr. Mayor. Before you tonight, the next two items relates to the 2015 action plan of the consolidated plan for the City of Topeka. This is our budget document and application to the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development for the funding that comes through Housing and Neighborhood Development. This would include our Community Development Block Grant, also known as CDBG, the Home Investment Partnerships Program, HOME, the Emergency Solutions Grant, ESG, and it's also a required document in order for us to be eligible to receive Shelter Plus Care funding through HUD. The proposed plan was presented to the Citizens Advisory Council, which accepted the plan as presented at their July 2nd meeting. Just to give you a quick overview of the funding and the programs, the funding in the 2015 action plan is based on 2014 funding levels. As of right now, the House and the Senate both have appropriations bills for HUD. They are both fairly close to their 14 levels for CDBG and the homeless programs. Little difference between the two on the home program. There will likely be a continuing resolution, and we probably won't have a firm number from the feds until sometime after the first of the year. The resources that we use for this go into a number of different programs. I'm just going to kind of touch on a few of them, not go through all of them. We have our housing development programs, which would include our Topeka Opportunity to Own, TOTO, the SORT program, and emergency repair. We have funding that goes for community development activities, which would be our neighborhood empowerment projects, public facility improvements. Neighborhood services, which is the support funds that we provide to the NIAs, as well as neighborhood cleanups. Our homeless program activities, that would be the Emergency Solutions Grant, which provides homeless prevention and money for the shelters. The Shelter Plus Care program, which is a rental assistance program. Social service, this would be the CDBG and general fund grants for contracted citywide services as well as social service functions. And then lastly would be the administration program and grant administration of these federal funds. That's a quick overview of the program. I'm available for questions if you have them.
Okay, thank you. We will then open the public hearing. Is there anyone present who wishes to speak on the 2015 Consolidated Action Plan? Seeing none, we will declare the public hearing closed. We will proceed to item F of the agenda, the action on the Consolidated Action Plan, if the clerk would read.
F is approval of the 2015 Consolidated Action Plan and Budget.
Thank you. Council members, you have heard the presentation. Do you have additional questions? What is your pleasure? Ms. Everhart?
Thank you. I move to approve.
Deputy Mayor moves to approve. Mr. Harmon seconds. Is there discussion? Mrs. Hiller?
I just wanted to make a quick point. This program started in 1976, and Topeka was very much ahead of, at the front of the line in the whole country at making sure that the dollars in our entire community development block grant went to neighborhoods. And even though we still today really focus on needs of those neighborhoods and continued improvement, the city some years ago now added $1.4 million for the SORT program to that, and it has made so much of a difference. And it's interesting to see it stay largely the same, certainly from last year to this year, but also over the years. Sort of, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, and just keep working. And just want to congratulate Brad. I know the Citizens Advisory Council works hard on this, and they actually advise the empowerment grants and the SORT choices, and it's really an integral part. I know you really campaigned on neighborhoods as well. I think we've all focused on that, and it just works, and so we don't talk about it a lot. So
Right.
Thank you.
Thank
I'll
you.
support it.
Thank you for those comments. And I also, it's an excellent booklet that's put together that describes all of these programs. Other questions or comments? We have a motion and second. All those in favor vote yes, opposed vote no.
We have 8 yes, Ms. De La Isla abstained.
8 having voted yes, the consolidated action plan and budget is approved. We proceed to item G, public hearing on the budget.
G is a public hearing to obtain public input and answer questions and objections from taxpayers regarding the proposed 2015 City of Topeka operating budget.
Okay, Mr. City Manager, you want to introduce for the, giving the overview?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would, with your permission, ask Mr. Gerber to provide some opening comments for this item.
Thank you, Mr. Gerber.
Mr. Colson, Mr. Mayor, thank you. Give Ms. Gilbert a second here to get our graphic up on the screen for our viewing audience. So tonight marks it's an exciting night, I think. It's always a fun night to culminate this process, what's been a many-month process for both staff and the governing body. What we'll have tonight is essentially a two-part process. We will have a public hearing at which you'll hear public comments, concerns, questions about the budget. And then subsequent to that, there'll be a separate action in which the council will address potential adoption of the 2015 operating budget. This is all required by state statute. This is one of the final steps in the process, and since we are law-abiding citizens, we want to make sure we go through with this process and do what we're supposed to do. So with that in mind, I'd like to take us back just a little bit, look back to where we started, and then bring us to where we're at tonight. As the council knows, governing body knows, we've gone through this process really beginning kind of formally with the governing body adopting priorities in late May. And then after that, there were a couple of different public input sessions at which the public could show up and provide input both in person, and also a number of polls were put together online so that the public could provide input in that manner. Subsequent to that, the budget committee met and had 3 public meetings at which things were discussed, and ultimately, at the June 24th meeting, the budget committee recommended to the full governing body to approve the budget as amended. So the ordinance that you may potentially adopt tonight, that we would recommend you adopt, includes all operating funds in the amount of $256 million and some change. That includes approximately 90.9, almost 91 million for the general fund operating budget. The total taxes that will be levied will remain the same. The total mill levy will remain the same. The taxes levied this year will be 2015 will be approximately 40,577,000. And again, the total estimated mill levy will stay the same at 39.736. That's subject to change after the county clerk finalizes evaluation numbers and does their process, but the intent is that the mill levy stays the same for 2015. So with that, with that brief introduction, I would later on stand for questions
Okay.
after the public hearing.
We will
Thank
then
you.
proceed to the public hearing on the operating budget. Anyone in the audience can speak. However, we have 2 who have signed up to speak. The first is Earl McIntosh.
Before you start my time and while you're past that.
Yes, we will wait till we get the material. Okay, we'll start the time.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
Before you start the time, I'm gonna take the second sentence of the second paragraph and move it up to the first. I don't want people to, if they follow along, I just want them to know that
Thank you.
what I've done. My name is Earl McIntosh. I appreciate the opportunity to speak before the council this evening. I want to start by saying thank you to the council and City Manager Jim Colson for submitting a balanced budget. I want the council to know you all are good people, and I know you care deeply about Topeka. As you all know, I was here last year describing the difficult situation homeowners are facing. It is a shame that we ask for public input after the budget decisions have been made. It makes it look like we have a say when really we don't, as public testimony is taken an immediate vote on the budget by the council on the same night without consideration of public input. Everyone in this room knows Topeka is ending home ownership in our community as we know it. Yes, our taxes are comparable with other cities, but it doesn't change the fact that homeowners or cities have no more money to give. The demands we put on responsible people who own homes is not fair. Homeowners are the backbone of Topeka, and we pay more than our fair share. Let's take a look at who takes our money, our hard-earned money, out of our property taxes. The state of Kansas, the county, the city, the metro, transit, the airport, the library, Washburn University, school districts. As you can see, everyone has their hands in the pots. The problem is the city of Topeka has reached a point where it is now outpacing the private sector on inflation. This trend won't stop until the city studies and recognizes the severe problems with homeownership and the associated costs. Here's what homeowners in Topeka are facing in 2014. We are facing a major tax increase by Shawnee County, as well as other tax increases that are yet to be determined. The price of food we buy at the grocery store is up, natural gas is up, West Star raised our electrical rates because the city raised their franchise fees, and now they're raising our rates again. And now our water rates are increasing. The past few years, insurance companies have increased the cost of homeowners insurance premiums significantly because of claims and inflation. Things are so bad when homeowners have claims, many can't afford to pay the deductibles on their policies. In the past year, a couple news articles have gone unnoticed in the Topeka Capital Journal. First, Topeka is in the top 10 city for renters. Second, more intergenerational families are sharing homes. And third, the number of young people who are buying homes is down in half because they can't afford the associated cost of homeownership and also due to lack of jobs. This is going to have a ripple effect very soon. Did you know there are literally thousands of delinquent homeowners in Topeka who haven't paid their property taxes? This totals millions of dollars of back taxes. Every day I talk with people who are homeowners, and I can tell you people are hurting and hurting bad. Most people are on fixed incomes and can't ever begin to keep up with all the tax increases and the price increases of essentials like food, water, heat, gas, home repairs, cost of family, and personal debt. People are in my office regularly crying because they can no longer afford to keep their homes. And the sad part is after raising a family and many years of memories, having to move. We want people to own homes. It is better for Topeka, and it's a sign of a healthy economy. Homeowners is in peril in Topeka. I'm telling you, homeowners cannot afford another penny in taxes or expenses. I have 3 questions. When the city and the county consolidated parks and recs, it was said the savings would be so significant it would reduce property taxes. Well, it did save about $5 million is what I've told. My question is, where is that $5 million of savings and where did it go? Thank God we have the best fire and police protection in the state, but a fair question to ask is why is the budget for the police $7 million and the fire $4.6 million more than our comparable cities of our size? And finally, what is the city doing to collect back taxes from delinquent homeowners? In closing, I hope all as council members realize what has happened to homeowners in our city. If someone could try to answer my questions, I'd be grateful. I thank each council member for their service to our community. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. And I encourage if council members, if you want to visit with them on their views, that would be very appropriate and something you could follow up with. Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Second person who is signed is Ms. Joseph Ledbetter.
Evening again, council. I am a business owner here. I have property in Topeka, and I am against any mill levy increase. I know that that's what you're saying in the budget that you've put forth with the manager. However, the last 2 years, you you increased property taxes, in my opinion, exorbitantly last year, especially. Let's go over some facts in this community. In the past 10 years, poverty is up 50% in this community. I've asked Go Topeka what their plan is. They look at me and say, huh? Well, what's your plan, Joe? And I said, you're the guys that have the contract. Sales taxes are up. Water and sewer rates are up. And I've come down and spoken a number of times against that and against stormwater being increased. Stormwater has not been increased, at least for the last 2 years. Westar is up 56% since 2009. That's on each and every one of your citizens, each and every one of your businesses, your small businesses that are the backbone of the national economy and your local economy, which is largely ignored. Only a few businesses have any influence with Go Topeka or the Chamber, not the small businesses. In the last 4 years, we've lost a net of about 4,000 jobs, including private sector jobs and state of Kansas jobs. That goes unabated. It continues. All of that has affected business and small businesses in this community. We still have zero transparency in economic development funds. And I think that really affects the city of Topeka and the county. I think it affects our budgets when we do not have job growth, when the small businesses that may have the creative ideas to actually get jobs in here are not listened to, are not talked to. We're not invited on the out-of-state trips with Go Topeka, nor should we. We don't need to go on that. You can do all that research right from your office on your laptop. I'm pretty sure you're not going to raise taxes this year, but we have got to pay attention to the poor in this community. We have got to start paying attention to the lower middle class that is struggling so hard and start having some empathy for them instead of ignoring them and pretending they don't exist when it comes to sales taxes or sales tax extensions, because these are regressive taxes and they affect them the most. And quite frankly, they affect our homeowners. They may not think that a sales tax affects them, but it certainly does. It's still a tax. They're still paying it. Every time they go to the grocery store, every time they make a purchase, they're still paying it. And we have some of the highest sales taxes in the state for first-class cities. I would encourage you to listen more to your constituents and question expenditures. Start putting your concerns on the record. Start asking for transparency in all parts of the government that you oversee, including JADO, and start demanding accountability. You might be surprised at some of the things that are going to come out in the next few months because we haven't had transparency. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you. And I should point out the comment that was made, go ahead. Mr. Finance Director Gerber had mentioned the city council did have public hearings this year on the budget that the citizens could come up and make comments. So there was an opportunity earlier for people to speak to the council on the issues pertaining to the budget. Are there others in the here this evening that wish to make comments as part of the public hearing? Seeing none, we declare the public hearing on the budget closed. We'll proceed with item H, the appropriations ordinance.
H is an appropriation ordinance introduced by City Manager Jim Colson, approving and adopting the operating budget for the calendar year 2015 and appropriating the amounts for the purpose set forth therein.
And the appropriation ordinance is based on the work of the Budget Committee, and for that I ask for a report of the Budget Committee from the Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. On June 24th, the Budget Committee voted to recommend to the governing body approval of the 2015 operating budget as amended. Those amendments are reflected in the appropriation ordinance.
Thank you. That is the Budget Committee's report, and it is received. Next, we proceed to the consideration of this ordinance, which embodies the budget report. Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move to adopt appropriation ordinance, which contains the 2015 operating budget approved by the Budget Committee.
Ms. Delisla? Second. Ms. Delisla seconds. Okay, we have this now before us, and it is, we are ready for discussion, any action of the body. Councilwoman Schwartz.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We had previous testimony from Mr. McIntosh, and I don't think we had a chance to ask any questions. So I wanted to ask the question as to the report that we are one of the top 10 cities for renting versus home ownership. And if the city has looked at that, and if we need to have Mr. McIntosh expand on that from his information that he has, because that's an astounding figure that we are one of the top 10 cities, because that's property taxes where, we generate a lot of income. So I would like an answer to that.
Does someone want to speak to that? Mrs. Delisla?
Just for information purposes, the city of Topeka does have over 40% rental versus 60% home ownership. There is a high incidence of rentals in Topeka. Over 50% of those rental units are low income. And so we do have a severe home ownership crisis.
If I may, have we looked at any predictions then what this means for the city itself as to income for operating purposes if we have 40% renters and we are seeing an increase in that? What's the impact, the fiscal impact of that?
Yeah, that's looking in. Mr. City Manager, you want to comment?
Mr. Mayor, we're aware that this is an issue. We work very closely through CDBG and neighborhood relations to address these issues, but I apologize at this particular moment. I'm not really prepared to talk about that. You did make a reference, I think, in your opening comment. I just want to make sure I heard it correctly. People who rental properties certainly pay property taxes also, so I don't know if I heard that correctly there. Whether a house is owned or rented, the property taxes are paid. But I think at this particular moment, I'm certainly happy to let somebody else talk about this, but in terms of a specific plan for addressing that, I'm not sure that I would be prepared, and I would not want to put staff in that position either.
Yeah. Councilwoman Delisla.
Just to elaborate a little bit, if you look at the housing development program that we have just received, I can say that I have been working closely because of my work, my line of work, with regards to addressing this issue. H&D has been working very hard through programs such as SORT, as going into neighborhoods, working on the infrastructure, and trying to ensure that areas that are dilapidated in our city are able to be replenished and then therefore worked through so that they can have home ownership. TOTO is another great example. That's a program through Housing and Credit Counseling that provides affordable housing options. You have other organizations such as Cornerstone that is a huge renter in our community that also works with low income. However, just to address what City Manager was saying, the people that are renting are still under a landlord, and that landlord technically should be paying the taxes to the city. Now, whether all landlords are doing that, that's a whole nother question, but I think that this is why the city has been working so hard with different associations such as the landlord associations and working with other organizations so that we could address this issue.
Thank you.
Mrs. Hiller?
Having worked with that very issue for years, I would just to clarify that a roughly 40% renter, 60% homeowner ratio is something we've had for 50 years here. It is not new. All across the country, we did go through, we had a presidential initiative to improve homeownership, and a lot, as we all know, there was a glut of, quote, affordable loans to people who really couldn't afford them. It really hurt the rental markets for a while, but eventually we've had a drop back because people who weren't in a position to become homeowners got into it and have gotten back out of it. And so we're sort of adjusting The programs that have been discussed, such as Habitat and Toto, have really been effective. They're slow and steady, but they include education and preparation of the properties as well as the individuals for successful homeownership. I would suggest, it's been so long that people have done homeownership programs that it's tough to track all of the ownership, but Toto is now over 400 and has been one of the most successful programs in the country. And so we do need to keep on working on that. We need to work on things like code compliance to make sure that it is appealing and people want to spend their own money on our neighborhoods all over the city. And so we need to continue working on things like that. But everyone is paying taxes. Everybody's paying property taxes. Everyone's paying sales taxes at the level that they can afford. You know, we've also been working on economic development for jobs and just improvement in the wealth for individuals as well as our city, and we certainly need to continue that. But and always watch and always want to improve. What you're identifying as the split, though, isn't really very new. Thank you.
Thank you. Anything else? Go ahead, Ms. Schwartz.
Yes, I have a follow-up question then. With Mr. McIntosh's testimony, he indicated, and I want this addressed so that the viewing public and everyone here knows exactly how this is addressed and how this is to be answered with the savings in the Park and Rec merger. I think it's been referenced as $5 million. If we could have Mr. Gerber respond to that, where that savings is in this budget that we have before us.
I know, yeah, we're making payments yet to the county, but would you want to comment on that?
Mrs. Schwartz, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, indeed, we continue to make payments, debt service payments to, on parks and whatnot. In 2015, it should be our last year, and that will total another $1 million next year in the 2015 budget. Some of the other, what you would call savings, were used to help offset other routine increases in expenditures. So for example, you know, personnel costs routinely rise because of contracts or raises or capers increases. So some of the savings that we saw from the parks merger on the city side have been used to offset expenditures. That would be an example of where some of those savings have gone.
And go ahead.
If I could follow up with that, if there's any way to show us the numbers where those increases have been put into the budget from the savings, because I think that's a complaint that I hear, is that we're supposed to see a savings and then we don't, and because it's put back into the budget into other places.
And I think what he said also earlier, or the first point is, the city has had some ongoing expenses that we had in Parks and Recreation because we had some obligated bonds. We had some bonds that we continue to pay off. So it isn't exactly like we had all of a sudden all that money back to us, correct?
That's correct, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, and I don't want to get too far off track, and I think that Mr. Gerber can put some more information together, but I think that that's what needs to be stressed, that there was no magic savings initially because we're still paying the debt service, and I think we're going to be paying it for many, many years yet, as that transfer was the way that it was adopted. So I think, I'm not sure where some of those numbers are thrown out about savings. There were a lot of talk about that, but the city hasn't actually. I mean, I'll leave that to the finance department, but I'm not sure that we have seen much of any savings when we have to continue to pay debt service on every Parks and Rec building that we transferred and gave title to the county on. So, and we're still paying on it.
And also, again, not to belate this, but there was various discussion at the time when the merger was agreed to. Some stated how much the savings would be, others stated, and as I stated at the time, I'd been in the state, when departments are merged, many times the savings are not there as people think they will be, because two groups are merged, brought together like this. Generally, you don't bring one down, you raise the other one up, and the county is going through some difficulties doing that. And it's always, you know, there was no study done showing how much we will save, and so it's hard to say now, why didn't we get the savings? So it's in there somewhere. Okay, other comments on our budget? Mr. Manspeaker.
I would just state a correction to what Councilman Hiller said. Not everybody's paying their property tax. There's quite a few folks who are delinquent on their property tax, and they tend to own lots of property, which is unfortunate. I think that one of the bigger conversations that we tend to not like to have is sort of the property tax versus sales tax line item budgets that we deal with. And the reality is that there may be 40% rentals in our community, but my guess is that the landlord passes the cost of their property tax on to the renter, so the renter is actually paying that property tax. So it's frustrating from that sense in that that renter who may or may not be impoverished is also getting hit at a higher rate through sales tax than the good majority of other folks that live in our community. We tend not to want to talk about the regressive nature of sales tax, but I think it's really important for people to understand when folks who are of little means or ability have to pay a higher percentage of their income in tax than those who could actually afford to do it. I would encourage the city, and this budget is, I think this is a budget that I can support, but I would encourage the city to look toward the future in trying to come up with more progressive tax measures that are benefiting to the entire community and don't tax some of us at a higher rate than the rest. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. One other comment that we could make in the document that was distributed, it says, what is the city doing to collect back taxes from delinquent homeowners? The collection of taxes is a role of the county and this county treasurer. And I know the county has been more aggressive this year, and that's the reason that our property tax income is up above what was projected, is because they've been more aggressive in going after the delinquent taxpayers. Now we can move on, finally. Mrs. Hiller.
One little addendum to the discussion about Parks and Rec. It's not the only example, but even when staff would go back and try and give us a financial report, we had an attorney work full-time for a year on the property transfers, and they're still not done. And so there are those residuals that people were making some reference to that we are still working out. I wanted to ask a question, if I could, for the benefit of some in the audience, if the appropriate person could clarify with the vote that we're doing right now, whether the transient guest tax allocations and the social service grant allocations would therefore be finalized as well.
Mr. Gerber, can you speak to that?
Mr. Mayor, Ms. Hiller, yes, if you adopt the ordinance that's before you, it will indeed include both of those components.
Thank you very
as
much.
presented.
Thank you.
Okay,
I
good-
did have a
good
comment
point, right.
as well. I just wanted to say thank you to the staff, and that means all of the staff, not the lead staff, but also all the staff. People have worked hard in terms of getting the revenue in and the expenses down last year. And it's nice to come in with a commitment to no increase in the tax level. I can see places in this budget where we are continuing to shore up some funds and other elements to the budget that were just very fragile before. They look strong going in, particularly with our reports today. It's tempting to try and cut it, but I do hope that and I'll support it as is. I do hope, though, that we can all, as you start to come back from a downturn, you get to kind of relax a little bit. I hope we can all treat this budget as if it was 2 years ago and continue to watch every penny. I'm very eager to see us looking forward next year to cutting back the mill levy. We are going to face sometime during this year, either during this year or perhaps corresponding with next year's budget, addressing our utility rates. I would like to see us do some property tax relief by next year when we can.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Other comments, questions? Seeing none, we have a motion before us for approval of the appropriation ordinance. All those in favor vote yes. Opposed vote no. I vote yes.
We have 9 yes Councilmember Schwartz voting no.
9 having voted yes, the appropriation ordinance is approved. And a momentous vote, it's a significant vote in our annual work. We will move forward now. I don't believe there are any applications. That is correct. So we will proceed with the announcements. And the first item there is the council agenda overview for next week's meeting.
For the August 19th preliminary agenda for next week, we have a presentation on the 2013 City of Topeka Audit Comprehensive Annual Financial Report. On the consent agenda, we have 2 board appointments to the Topeka Planning Commission. We have a board appointment to the Topeka Shawnee County Riverfront Authority and a board appointment for the Board of Plumbing Examiners. We have ordinances and resolutions related to general obligation bonds and temp notes. We have an expenditure ordinance, a labor agreement for development services and planning, and we have a discussion on zoning district use matrix changes.
Okay, thank you. That is the agenda for next week, and we will proceed with the announcements. Mr. City Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would like to congratulate Councilmember Schmidt, who made the list of the 2014 honorees for Topeka's 20 under 40, so congratulations, Nathan. Very exciting for you. The Jayhawk Area Council chose the honorees based on their commitment and contributions both professionally and personally, so I think that reflects well on us as a body.
Thank you. Proceed with the council members' announcements. Mrs. Hiller.
3 quick ones. Neighborhood Night Out was awesome. Thanks to Safe Streets and all of law enforcement and all of the various sponsors and others that made that occur. And I've heard 2 different numbers, but either 63 or 67 neighborhoods. I hit 7, and every one of them was different and fun. And just saying, Tennessee Town wants to know who won Stuff the Bus. We had a lot of folks on the bus at ours. So, still waiting to hear. A reminder that one of my constituents from Central Topeka called in to remind everyone that the Railroad Festival is this weekend on Saturday from 9:30 to 4:30 at the Great Overland Station, and it really is a great time. I encourage everybody to go. And last, I wanted to give a shout out to the neighborhood team who sent a letter to all of us this week with some concerns about code compliance. They strongly supported seeing the change, but are still very vigilant in terms of how that rollout is going, and I really appreciate their efforts in watching and keeping in touch. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Brown.
Well, Councilmember Hiller kind of stole my thunder on Topeka Railroad Festival, but that's all right. I'll add that I think it's 9:30 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. It's $10 at the gate, and children 2 and under are free. I would encourage everyone to come out. And I also echo her comments in regards to Safe Streets and all the city departments and the county departments and the nonprofits and everyone else who came out and supported the National Night Out events. But I wanted to specifically, because I also was able to go around my district, and I wanted to acknowledge Heather Payne with the Cottages of Topeka as the lead for that event, Stacy Parker at Meadowwood as the lead for that event, Tara Nichols and Penny Scheidegger as the leads for the Oakland NIA, Joyce May for the Pioneer Curtis Homes, and especially Janelle Clay for Ripley Park, and lastly, Tanai Gibson, East Topeka South NIA. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Councilwoman Ortiz.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Night Out Against Crime was awesome. When you think about what we're trying to do nationally in East Topeka South, we call them the L Streets, and they're very crime-ridden, and we had probably over 200 people there at the Spray Park, and also we did a movie, and it didn't get over till 11:30. So when you're bringing positive things and people in the neighborhood, it's really awesome. Thank the mayor for coming out. Thank TJ. And last but not least, we thank Chief Miller for coming out. And somehow him and this little boy got put on YouTube, and I don't know how. But you'll have to check it out. Also, I wanted to say, school starts Wednesday, so slow those vehicles down. Remember, our kids are out there going to and fro. In different districts, we don't have any sidewalks, so they'll be in the street, but I just wanted to remind everybody about that. And last but not least, the last movie that we will be playing is the Lego Movie. It starts at 8:30 and it's in Billard Park. And it's really, really been awesome to see the families come out and enjoy the movies. So we hope to see everyone come out and enjoy the last movie this Friday. And I also believe, just going to go ahead and give them a shout out, that I know at Lake Shawnee there's going to be a movie as well. And I can't remember the name of it, but they'll have their movie. They always have their movie at the Boys Diamond, and it'll start at 8:30 as well. They're free, so hopefully the families can get out and enjoy. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Councilwoman Yalisla.
Councilwoman Ortiz, I have to say that you said Lego Movie, and the first thing that went through my head is everything is awesome. And everything is good when you're part of the team. I want to start by just saying a heartfelt thank you to the groups of Fellowship Bible Church and also the city of Topeka and Operation NetReach for the spectacular job that was accomplished in High Crest during the last week. For those of you that were not aware, High Crest had a phenomenal mission trip. The kids in the neighborhood were able to participate of the Sazo, which was a free camp for the kids. I was just extremely impressed at the energy and the love that all of these kids were receiving. In addition to that, 3 houses received makeovers, and the kids were the ones doing most of the work. Volunteers from the churches, and the transformations in those properties were just spectacular. So thank you for all of the hands and feet that were there to provide a lending hand to this awesome group of people that live in High Crest. And I look forward to all the awesome things that are going to continue happening over there, because much more things are to come. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Speaker. Councilwoman Schwartz.
Yes, thanks. This past couple of weeks, I've had several calls on water main breaks, and I want to thank our Public Works Director for the immediate responses to those and getting those taken care of. I know they're happening all over the town, so it's something that we have to address. I also want to congratulate Christy Pankratz and Judy Wilson for all of the work done on the Night Out Against Crime. I couldn't be here because I was in Junction City, but I understood that they all went over in all the neighborhoods very well. And I attended last week, I think it was, the mayor and council member Hiller attended with me the Sustainability Committee meeting, and they had Dennis Murphy, who is the Chief Environmental Officer for KCMO, and he told us of a lot of things that's going on in their city, and we had city staff there also, so I hope that we can follow through with some of that. And the last thing is, last week I worked in one of the Habitat for Humanity homes, and it's an awesome experience, and if people have not volunteered to do that across our town, we need to do that more. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Schmidt.
Thank you.
Councilman Schmidt, would you bring us your announcements, please?
Thank you. Yes, I would also like to congratulate Safe Streets and Christy on a wonderful event this last weekend. I made it out to several of them, got to see a horse from the sheriff, fire trucks, police cars, buses, and a bunch of friendly people sharing good food with each other. And I thought it was a great success, and that's a tribute to all the work that you guys do. Thank you, City Manager, and thank you to the Jayhawk Area Council of the Boy Scouts for the award. And the 16th at 9 o'clock in the morning, if you have any interest in men and women wearing kilts throwing heavy objects, the Topeka Classic Highland Games will be going on out at Washburn Tech, and I invite everybody to come out. Thank you.
Councilman Harmon.
That's my normal weekend activity. I don't know.
do this every week.
Nothing. I've got videos.
Thank you. Well, and on the National Night Out, I think I attended events in districts 1, 2, 3, 4, and 6, and I think one of the interesting aspects is the diversity of our city, which you see in going around in these. And the thing about it, it's people really enjoying being together, coming together, and that's, of course, the important point of it, getting to know their neighbors, entertaining the children, but becoming better aware of the city and the neighborhood and where they are. And then I also would like to comment on our two significant votes tonight. First on Hartman Park, and I certainly want to acknowledge the work that the city has put together on this. This is a momentous step that we have taken, and only one step in a series. We have many more to come, but I think that we see this is the direction that we should be going, and it is significant that we are beginning, we're taking those steps, and it'll be a better service to the city in the long run. And then secondly, the budget, the manner in which it was discussed and handled this evening, again, is a compliment to the staff, the finance department, in putting it together, the process that was used this year. Certainly, we're getting better at it. We still have things we can do to work on it, but I certainly compliment the staff and how this was handled. I think we have a good budget, a solid budget, and we can look forward to continuing to improve the financial structure of the city. With that, we have two persons for public comment. First is Chief Ron Miller.
I just wanted to step forward and thank the council and the city for the reception on Friday. It was well attended, and to all those who participated, both as speakers and who participated as the drum line and the ROTC drill team, was fabulous. And to our community groups, I would like to say thank you for the support these past 8 years as the chief, and good luck to the city in the future. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Those were well stated.
Your Honor.
Yes, Councilman Harmon.
Thank you. Chief Miller, could you stick around after the meeting? I need to see you just for a minute. Thank you.
He can't take care of things. It's Pat. The other speaker is Joseph Ledbetter.
Thank you very much. I hate to follow that, but anyway, back on this. We had 150 kids that were involved in the net reach over there at Avondale East in the last week, and I appreciate all the involvement of the volunteers and the churches that made that possible. I do want to thank some city staff for the quick returns on my choras on these star bonds, because I think the information I brought was pertinent, and I think it needed to be discussed. And Mary Finney, actually the manager, called me on a couple questions and answered my questions, and then Brenda Younger, who's always very quick to return core responses. I wish we had that kind of response when I'm trying to get economic development information out of Topeka, because I do believe I have a right to it. It is public money. I also want to thank Doug Whittaker for his work on getting the city easement documents signed for the sidewalks and the sidewalk bids. I think we're going to be on time. We're going to meet a deadline that I'd kind of self-impose, that we'd break ground by September 1st, so that High Crest West will finally, I guess after 50 years, have sidewalks. There are some over there, but this will get every street, every block something. And that's been a big desire of that NIA for many years. I also want to put into the record something I've already sent to all of you, and everybody except one person that I showed this to was pretty shocked. This is an service agreement that I got from Go Topeka, which shows how they transfer hundreds of thousands, even millions of dollars to the Chamber of Commerce, which I have scrutinized the JADO minutes, the JADO budgets. I see no legal authority to do that. I'm certainly willing to listen to the other side, but it is shocking to me to find out that through sales tax money, which is the most regressive of all taxes, on attachment A, we are paying country club dues for Go Topeka. And I don't think there's a reason for that. I think it's outrageous. But this is an example. I'm going to put this in the record. This is an example of what happens when you don't have transparency. We have no clue where that money's going. We only see PowerPoints. We only see glib announcements of we had so many contacts. They haven't gotten anything new since 2011, which was the Mars plant, and that came through the state. That's why the governor was out there. He wasn't going to let them get all the glory. I'm just telling you that we're fast approaching a time we have got to get to the bottom of where millions and millions of dollars are going, because no matter what their glib statements are or their propaganda, it's not working. And I would be more than happy to debate any of them on public TV, as long as there's equal time allowed, about whether their program is actually working and whether it should be transparent or not. I'm sure they won't respond to that. But I think what troubles me the most is that I know a lot more than I'm going to let you know tonight. And I just wish to God some of you people would have listened over the last several years and would have actually done your due diligence and handled this money in a fiduciary manner and actually dug in with questions as to where all this money has gone. We know that $406,000 a year is going to Doug Kinzinger for his salary, which is more than the President of the United States. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Being no other business, the meeting is adjourned.